so I did do that and went into and went back again, and that's where I've started feeling that there was more need for me. You guys have Larry and Sharon who do a wonderful job, and so I didn't see my skills being used as much in the Philippines. There were some that would, but others that wouldn't. So they needed a little more work there, so I tended to go there more for that purpose. Not that I didn't love coming to the Philippines and seeing everyone. It's just that they needed some of my skills more, and that's what created me going more often. So soon after, I became an ACMF as well to IndoChina, and then that role turned into a CMF role. We started doing a feasibility study on a saturation project of our own, and which became a saturation project. So once that happened, I became the lead CMF for the saturation project. So that kind of gives you where I come from in the regards to the OMS world, ECC OMS. So where are we at now? This is the big training, or the big thing that I'm doing, is just telling you kind of what we're doing. So yeah, I continue to work as an ACMF with the Philippines and CMF to IndoChina. And I became the project manager for the saturation project. One other note with that is our field missionaries, Clyde and Jane Van Worth, retired at the end of December. So I was tasked with becoming not the field director, but field leader at this present, as we try to fully move everything over into the hands of the Vietnamese nationals. Our leader there that we installed in place is the leader, and I am just coming alongside him, kind of like Aaron would to Moses. So that's kind of my role in trying to help transition everything. I just want to, as we're going, can you guys hear me fine? Just want to make sure we're good on sound and everything with where I'm at. So I think we can, because you guys are moving through. So I'm going to keep going. So yeah, the saturation project, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. It's a lot different than what you would do there in the Philippines. I think when the group came over to Vietnam with me, one of the things we were doing was doing a little prayer walking, and I made the comment, we were in a big street, a busy street, and I said, if you were to look out at all these people in the Philippines, you would assume that about 90% of them have heard of Jesus. And I said, here, you're lucky if it's 1% to 2%. So I said, that's the big difference of what we deal with in relationship to what you do in the Philippines. So with that in mind, we have to do things a lot different. And also there's the risks that come along with it, with police or local religious leaders trying to stop our work by threats, by destroying houses, things of that nature. So these are all real things that we deal with as our team goes out and does trainings. So one of the big issues we had was with our trainings, they were doing okay, but they weren't quite culturally Vietnamese. So when we started to do the saturation project, one of the big things I asked them is, if you were to do this, how would you do the trainings? How would you build them out? And they said, well, we do it in 4 levels. So they started working on these 4 levels of training. The first level is very much the same as your seed sower tools. So it's evangelism. It's going to be the 4-1-1. We do an I am second built into it and start working on teaching them how to disciple someone well. And so that would be the first level. Once they take level 1, they need to, before they can go to level 2 training, which could be a minimum of 3 months, could be longer, they need to share their faith enough times, show the fruit of doing the actual sharing of their faith enough times that 5 people come to Christ. So they could have shared with 5 people and all 5 of them said yes. They could have shared with 100 people until they got to 5. It just depends. Well, once they've done this, they're in a new situation. They have 5 new believers. So the next level would be called leading groups, how to lead a small group well, or Bible study, a home church, whatever you want to call it. So at that point, they start learning the skills of how to lead that group well. Basic things of leading something in your home, not a full church, but leading a group. So more on teaching how to disciple them, how to come alongside them, and also how to lead basic studies. So once they've started doing that, and they continue to do everything, they will move up to 10 people who have come to Christ. So once 10 people have come to Christ, then they can take level 3. And again, none of this is set in stone on timing. So it's really when they're ready and when we have enough people ready to do a training. So level 3 goes into how to lead a church well. Now, there's a couple different things in regard to that. There are some that are full on approved government churches. Some are more like house churches that are beyond being just a group. And so what they're learning there is some crucial things like care ministry, how to do weddings, how to do funerals, just how to come alongside people well in more of a care method, how to do more with worship. A lot of things are built into that one. So how to be a good pastoral person with your people, how to lead your flock well, how to be a good shepherd. So that's level 3. We've had one level 4 training so far, and that is once someone has planted multiple churches, at least 2, then they move into learning how to multiply well. And again, throughout this whole process, there's discipleship. So once they do that, everything's involved with it, and everything is about discipling them and getting to the multiplication, not just you leading multiple churches, but you leading people who lead churches. And I'll have a couple stories to tell you a little bit later on that, some success stories. So moving on to the relationships, I think they had the picture that popped up. We have a team, and in the picture you'll see a lot of our workers with some of our nationals. You see that for those of you that met the Schusters, you'll see them in there. The ones right in the middle with the yellow jacket and the gentleman behind him are the couple that just retired, Clyde and Jane Van Werf. You'll see Dennis Crump, you've met before. You'll see Mike Dragon. So those will be all the Americans in there. And then as you look at the national team, down on the bottom row, the guy in the red jacket, if you look right next to him, the guy in the blue shirt, he is our leader. He's Tom. The guy in the yellow jacket is he. And then the guy with the little girl in his lap, that is Paul. So those 3 are all in Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon. And they work well together on how we build out things and structure and such. And they're currently working on final edits of the 4 levels as they've made tweaks on it. And then they're going to put it into English for me so I can give it to other people. I was going to say, looking at the rest of the picture, the other workers we'd have right next to Tom, the lady that you see, that's his wife. She does all of our billing or treasury. She's our treasurer, basically. So she handles the budget. And then the guy on the far right bottom in the brown shirt and the guy right above him, they're both our workers in Da Nang, which would be the central region. And then if you go all the way to the other side, you'll see a guy in the blue shirt, and that's Vian, and his wife in the blue shirt right next to him is Sarah, and they are our team in the deep south. So that's our team. We have 7 total workers plus our treasurer. As we're doing trainings, we have kind of back when the Philippines, you guys were at a point where you only had a few trainers. That's where we're at on that. And that's one of our bigger struggles. So yeah, and that would be one of the big things is the fact that we're trying to get them to understand that they cannot do all the trainings. Last year, between the 7 of them, they trained over 1,000 people in one of the 4 levels. So so obviously they were quite busy doing trainings, and we need them to be able to help with that. I'm going to move on to some of our challenges. The big thing with that would be the denominational ties. Each denomination, it's a lot different there, in the fact that if a denomination is doing well because of the communist structure of the country, other churches will see it, and they'll turn them into local government to try to get them in trouble. So there's a lot of struggle and issue with this within the church. They don't want to see somebody else doing better than them. So, and you wouldn't think this the case in Christian circles, but it is what it is. So we deal with that to a large degree. So as we're building out training teams, this is one of our struggles with getting a training team together, is you can't have people from multiple denominations on a training team right now. If you do, what will happen is workers will start to, or the ones that are taking the class will listen to people from their denomination, but when a trainer gets up that's not from their denomination, they won't respect and listen to them as well. And so then they're not going to learn as well. So we've looked at trying to get denominations to give us training teams just from their denomination for their denominational people. We've looked at various ways of trying to see how that can work. So we're praying through that one and have a couple ideas that may work. Building a training company, that they work for the training company, so they're not considered as a denominational person, but actually a worker of the training company. And that may be how we work through some of that to build training teams. The other issue we run into is because of the tight-knitness of the denominations, we are running into the issue of being able to get approval to coach the ones we train, to come alongside them, make sure they're doing well. And so some of the denominations are starting to open up to that, but that is still a struggle. Another big issue we have or challenge would be the culture. So within the culture, it is very, very much hierarchical. So it's very top down. So where you guys do coaching, as an example, they can't even grasp the concept because the person who leads is the person everyone goes to. So it is very well structured in the fact that if you're leading, you're responsible for the whole flock, and nobody can coach each other. Nobody can come alongside each other. The other issue, like I said, is the trust issue, with denominations turning other denominations in to get them in trouble with local authorities and such. As a whole, the main country we're talking about is Vietnam. And Vietnam is a communist country that is, by federal standards, they are freedom of religion. But as you get into local areas, that's the big issue. And then the other one within the culture is just the limited exposure to Jesus. It's primarily Buddhist or local religions, local just within their local communities, they'll have ancestor worship, things of that nature that goes on. So those are the main things. So you're not seeing a lot of exposure to Jesus. As I said, when we were standing on the street, if 1% to 2% of them had heard of Jesus before, then that's where we're at. So that's another big challenge we have as our people go out into meet with other people, and so everything needs to be done very relationally. You're working and talking with people who know you and have seen the change in you. So that's a huge thing. Then the next one would be challenge-wise is I said the workers are few. The team again struggles with thinking that people are educated enough to train. Our trainings are designed, the first 2 levels that are designed where pretty much anyone could give them. But our workers have built this thing out, the ones we've had for years, and they just struggle with the fact of understanding that anybody can do these types of trainings. They're designed to be able to be done by anybody. And so we're dealing with that. And again, the denominational part with either getting the denominations to give us a training team or for people to work cross-denominationally. That is a big issue that we're working with, and that's why we don't have as many workers. So the prayers we would ask for on that is just that we can really understand how to develop more trainers, because without trainers, we will not grow. Our team is at capacity right now. So a few things to celebrate as we go into this. I'm going to tell you a few stories. So the first one I was talking about, the fact of the, and this here is actually in Vietnamese, obviously, but the workers are few. And from Matthew 9:37-38. But one of the stories, I was down in the deep south in 𝗕.𝗏, and that area we had done a level 1 training, and our team thought we're going to have to go back and do another training. We could tell they weren't grasping the basic tools of the 411 and being able to teach them how to share their faith and such. So we're gonna have to go back and retrain them, but that's fine. So this was all during the height of COVID things, so they couldn't get to them and talk to them. And 3 months went by, and after that 3 months, they finally were able to connect with them. And they thought, there's not going to be any fruit. We're not going to see anything. And what had happened is one guy who had been a pastor, I think for like 20 years, had built out his churches to 5 churches. These 5 churches were government approved. And during the 3 months since the training, he had only had the level 1 training. And during that 3 months, they had planted 40 more churches. So they went from 5 churches to 45 churches. And not just him leading all the churches, he was leading a group of 8, and those 8 were leading people, and they were going down to the 4th generation on these churches, which is to me just phenomenal. And we started seeing that in a lot of different places. So the thing is the fruit is there, the harvest is ready, right? Second one would be, we had a lady that went to the Billy Graham. So she went to she had been to one of our level 1 and level 2 training, and they had a big event at the Billy Graham crusade they just had in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City. And she brought along 12 non-believers with her that she was able to get to come with her. And 9 of those 12 accepted Christ. So that's what we and our leader Tom ran into her at this event. It's a huge event. It was tens of thousands of people there. At last I heard, I think 4,500 people came to Christ during this event, and this is just this last week. So that was another success story that we had, is a lady who went through some of our trainings, was willing to bring people and share with people. And that was 12 that came, and 9 came to Christ. And then another one was a man from Binh Tre, which is down towards the deep south, the Mekong Delta. And their group, they'd only done level 1, but they invited 100 people, and 90 of them accepted Christ. So that was another 90 that came to Christ just through people who had been part of our trainings. So what came from that was that we had leaders at the event start coming up to our people, asking, hey, what is the deal with this training? We want your training, and we're seeing what's happening here. So we want that. And we have some of the leaders of the groups that are trying to get coalitions of alliances of churches together. Some of those leaders have seen what we're doing, and they've tasked Tom and our team with leading some of the saturation evangelism that we're doing. So these are all success stories, wonderful things to celebrate, and we're excited to see what comes next. But again, without the workers, we're never going to be able to. Without the trainers and people in place, we're never going to be able to train all the people that need trained. They're asking if we can start working alongside these people that came to Christ. Well, that's 4,500 people that they want us to now come alongside, and we only have 7 people. So as you can see, that's a struggle we have, but it's also a blessing to have. It's a great issue to have, I guess, is that you have so many people that you can work with now that you don't have enough to work with them. So so our team, yeah, and that one picture you just saw, if you go back to that other picture, the guy that's pointed out, he is the one who invited the 100 that 90 of them accepted Christ. So he's the guy from 𝗏𝗓. So that was him. So with that, I think that's everything I had down on my list. I think we go into something next, and if there's any questions, I don't know what you go with next. So.